Welcome back to the Zanpakuto Theory video, and we got a triple header for you today, folks. We have the question today of what is the Bankai of Nozomi Kujo, Kageroze Iba, and Oku Yukushima. Now, these characters, if you're not familiar with the arc, because not everyone watches the filler arcs, these were the main center characters, center antagonist from left to right. The MacGuffin character, the main bad guy, the true bad guy, and then the main bad guy. So, and they were the integral villain slash MacGuffin characters of the Reigai arc, where basically it was copies of the 13 Court Guard Squad, the Gotei 13, and you got to see cool fights between characters you don't normally see fight, all that stuff. And we're asking today, what are their Bankais? Now, second off, why are we doing the triple? Why are we doing 3 characters at once? Well, spoilers if you haven't watched that arc. They are, in essence, all the same characters. So, I believe it's Oko or Oku or Uko, or it's O with a little slash. Don't know how you pronounce that. I'm going to go with Oko. Oko Yukushima is actually the true character. What happened was, he wanted to be taken more seriously, but no one would. It drove him basically to just seek, saw its own power, did experiments creating the mod soul, and then basically he split his soul into 2 different mod souls. And the 2 different mod souls were Nozomi and Kageroza. Ultimately, they ended up coming together and fusing into a new mod soul body, a new Reigai body, if you will. That was just the new body for Oko Yukushima. So, ultimately, that is why they are the same character. And in many ways, they have the same abilities, particularly Raiga and Raiga and Oko Yukushima. They do have the very similar abilities. Nozomi's is a bit different, though. And looking at this, I'm like, wait, what? These aren't it's like, this isn't right. But now, thinking back on it, I'm like, okay, I know what's going on here. Anyway, so what exactly are the Shikai? What are the Shikais of these characters? So let's start with Nozomi. And we'll actually treat each one technically like a separate Zanpakuto. Although, again, Raiga and his Kageroza's Raiga, which is right here. It's a cool looking Zanpakuto. Now, I don't actually have a full image of it right here, but I'll explain it when we get to it. Even though these 2 guys on the left-hand side are kind of the same in terms of their Zanpakuto abilities, there are some differences. We'll figure out what their Bankais ultimately are. But as you can see, you can actually see Nozomi's right here. Nozomi's is actually kind of a cool looking Zanpakuto. Described in terms of just physical appearance, resembling a black broadsword with a silver lining along the side of the middle. Near tip, stubble has a crossbeam that juts out, almost a little bit like an actual cross. So her Zanpakuto's name is, I haven't had to say this one, and God knows how long. Arizomi Shiguri, Arizomi Shigur. Or Shiguri. No, it's Arazome, so it's either Arazome or Arazome. And then Shigur, or Shiguri. Maybe Shiguri? Shigure. Anyway, that translates to Faded Scarlet Late Autumn Shower, which is just a beautiful name, actually. And perfect for this time of year. Anyway, though, its Zanpakuto ability, though, has the ability to absorb the Ryatsu of a Zanpakuto, Kido Spell, or even Quincy heroes. She's capable of subsuming anything classified as Ryatsu or use Ryatsu as a primary component. Once she's absorbed the power, it becomes Nozomi's to use against her opponent as she chooses. As she absorbs Ryatsu, depending on the level of power used, the middle of Zanpakuto fills up with pink energy like a gauge. Once it's filled to capacity, it glows with a pink spiritual energy, which resembles a Celtic cross. At any given moment, she can release a blast of spiritual energy, varying magnitudes to attack a single or multiple opponents. There is a catch to this, though. There is a limit to how much spiritual energy the Zanpakuto can take. The Zanpakuto ultimately ended up breaking under the immense power that the Reiatsu had. It just couldn't take all the power it had. So then, what would a Bankai for this be like? It would almost certainly be the same type of effect, just enhanced to a greater scale. I don't know if this would be because it. Again, I pointed out with a lot of the Zanpakutos are like this, but with Kido-based Zanpakuto, you rarely ever see the Shikai itself. Even sometimes the Zanpakuto itself changes physical form. Benihime, Katenkyotsu. I'm trying to think of another one right off the top of my head here. Technically, Geins can become. Geins is a weird one. That same time, Rukio's actually, when you really break it down, doesn't change almost at all. But there are exceptions, like, Mayuri's is clearly Aikido-based in some way, so its form clearly changes. Soiphone's is clearly Aikido-based because of the poison, so it clearly changes. So it's possible that they can change, but they're also particular types of Zanpakuto. Oddly enough, both dealing with a type of poison. So this one probably does change its form to some degree. It probably doesn't stay the same, but it's more than likely. I like it as something similar to what I figured like the Nows is kind of like. Maybe creates like these mirrors or these pillars that absorb Reiatsu constantly from not just the attacks, but from the environment as well. And to be fair, Oko Yukushima actually has an ability very similar to this. We'll talk about that a little later. So, more than likely, what its Bankai would do is, like I said, it's just a greater version of its Shikai, where it's not just absorbing oncoming attacks. It could probably absorb Reiatsu from the environment around it, and then fire it off at multiple attacks. It probably also has a much larger gauge, capable of taking on a lot more Reiatsu. So, yeah, it's a pretty simplistic Zanpakuto in terms of the idea what its Bankai could be. Its release command, by the way, is Rain Without End. With that, again, another great one, especially talking about like the Faded Scarlet Late Autumn Shower. I did like her Zanpakuto. Kage Rosa's on the other hand. Now this one, because Yokushima's the true form, we'll talk about his last. Kage Rosa, the guy on the far right, his Zanpakuto is Raikou. I was saying Raiga, but it's Raikou. And his release command is Go Mad, Raikou. And the cane transforms into a double-headed Volg, it says Volg, with red markings on it. Essentially, it's a double-bladed spear, almost like a sickle spear, almost. Like the blades are curved. You can see a little bit of. I don't have a full image of it right here, but you can see a little bit of it right here. Like it's a curved blade, very cool looking. Like it's a cool looking sword. Its ability is to manipulate space. And its name means coming void. This is performed by spinning Raikou, which produces a bell-like charm. It has spatial manipulation abilities. Raikou can create portals which connect to the Dangai. These portals can drag opponents into the Dangai. By twirling it to the right, these portals can negate attacks, recording information to create the space desired. By spinning it to the left, he can call forth the manifestations he recorded, which is capable of doing as many times as he wishes. He can also create copies of himself. He can literally use his Zanpakuto to produce a clone of himself. Unlike when he clones another person's abilities, the recurrent version of him can act independently until it's destroyed. He also has spatial displacement. While appearing to freeze time by using the portals on himself, Kagerosa can in reality relocate himself instantly with no hint towards the new location. Inaba can catch his opponents off guard this way. Now, basically, blocking the rotation can stop this effect. There's a high energy cost. He uses a lot of Reiatsu. And there's a limit to how many clones he can make. So what type of Bankai does this show off? Well, I think, first off, this would be one of those ones that probably doesn't change form. Because of the nature of its Zanpakuto manipulating space, there's no reason it needs to change form, quite frankly. What I do think happens, though, is that instead of just spinning this, probably when he spins the Zanpakuto now, multiple portals, giant portals, a lot, the size and limitation of his portals become nothing at that point. He could probably summon like 10,000 portals. I'm highballing it. More like maybe like a couple dozen portals. Multiple effects at once, multiple copies of the same effect, multiple clones of himself. Like, the limitation basically is just cut off by what he can do. Because Kagerosa clearly has limits to what he's capable of doing. He has to clearly spin the Zanpakuto to get any of those effects off to record at all. Whereas with this, he can probably just spin once either way, and he's got God knows how much recorded. He can throw God knows how much at you. What honestly, it's a zombie. What's it? That's a good question. What's infinite? The word infinite in Japanese, English to Japanese. Hold on. English to Japanese. Let's see here now. Infinite. Mugen. Oh man, I didn't even think that. Mugen. Because that's the name of their prison. So, yeah, Infinite Gumming Void would be a great name for this Bankai. So it would just be Mugen Raikou. There you go. So, yeah, that's frankly what I think his Zanpakuto would be. And now, Oko Yukishima, they don't actually list all the abilities here. In fact, they are kind of lowballing this for some reason. Why are they lowballing it? Hold on. Let me see if I can get his true character profile up here. Oko Yumishima. Okay, Bleach. There we go. So let's give this another shot, shall we? Oh, okay. I didn't get the mod soul version. That's the problem. So anyway, his Zanpakuto. Oh God. Basically translates into Ink Moon Halo, which is a great name. It looks like a combination of his Zanpakuto. I can at least get the picture up here real quick. So his Zanpakuto, will you grow? Thank you. For the full size of it. There we go. His actual Zanpakuto looks like this. And get that there out of the way. So Raiga, by the way, basically looks like the staff and blade part of it. This part, the circle guard here, is more or less a aspect of Nozomi's Zanpakuto. So yeah, that's honest. If you're curious what Raiga kind of looks like, it looks exactly like the handle and blades of this Zanpakuto. Minus the fact that these little blade guards right behind the blade are new. But ultimately, that's what it looks like. And in terms of what it's capable of doing, it is more or less a combination of the two Zanpakutos. And forgive me if you hear the washing machine in the background. But its name, Ink Moon Halo, oh God, Sumi Sukigasa, or Gasa, sorry, Sumi Sukigasa. There we go, I got it right. Sumi Sukigasa, Sumi Sukigasa. Say that 10 times fast, jeez. But anyway, Sumi Sukigasa possesses the power of both Raikou and Airazome Shigeru, allowing him to duplicate an adversary's attack and reproduce it while absorbing an adversary's spiritual pressure and turning it on its own. Raikou consumes a great deal of his spiritual pressure and entails a risk when reproducing an adversary's attack, but with the power of Airazome Shigeru, it is now able to absorb the attack and continue to counterattack indefinitely. So now it's basically cut down all the risk that the original Zanpakuto had. Or that his original, or that Raiga had, because he's able to not just absorb or create the attack. He doesn't have to use his own Ryatsu. He's basically now using the Ryatsu of the attack and throwing it back at the opponent. If he wants to make it stronger, he can. Its release command is Seethe. By using a release command Seethe, it glows yellow and transforms further, gaining a large hoop with multiple blade protrusions from the outside of it. So yeah, it basically that's what happens. That's what happens when he uses the command Seed. It also has two very powerful attacks. In Haijo Kuri, which is Tyrant Lock Void Bramble. By striking into the ground, an elegant fortress wall of purple reishi is formed. The wall transforms all energy around it into reishi, condensing it into a green ball before it gets launched at a considerable, powerful wave that decimates everything in its path. The wave can be spelled after it's launched. Then is more or less his finishing move. A more powerful version of Haijo Kuri is Renzen Haijo Kuri. A more powerful variant of this attack produces the ability to surround Yushima and forms an elegant fortress of green reishi. There are also various tendrils around the fortress that latch onto the ground beside it. A huge green light shoots up in the sky, casting an emblem resembling a hoop portion of Suchi Kasagaga's above Serite. Then it proceeds to absorb reishi that makes up the Soul Society, fire a concentrated green energy blast capable of destroying large areas within the radius blast, and can also block most external attacks. So essentially, what this ultimately does as a technique is absorb reishi from the environment and fire it back. So this is a pretty beast Zanpakuto when you actually break it down. There is weaknesses, though, to it. It cannot copy a hollow reishi. That was one of the big components here, is that neither Raikou nor Sumi Suchi Kasaga or Sukatsuga, whatever. They can't copy hollow energy. That's why Ichigo is such a big threat to them. Now, I'm actually going to be straight out honest with you. Despite the fact they never say it, and despite the fact it's really not, it's not stated here, I always got the belief that this would have been his Bankai. That Renzen Haijo Kuri would have been a Bankai. That's the impression I always got from it. But evidently that's not the case. It's just not. It's just an ability of the Shikai, which does beg the question: what the hell does the Bankai look like? I think the Bankai is a combination of something of this technique and his ability to copy and distort space. What I think it does is he opens up portals and steals energy from portals, from the location. Maybe even steals it straight from the Dawn guy. Now he's taking energy that manipulates time and space. So I mean, the Bankai name of this, let's see, Ink Moon Halo. You'd be looking at something more like not in the Inquisition, because that's Benihime, but something more akin to probably the in the throes of the fallen Ink Moon Halo or something like that. In the throes of death, in the throes of death or passion of the Ink Moon Halo. Ink Moon Halo is a very interesting name. But ultimately, yeah, I think it would probably be something where he's basically manipulating space, stealing reishi from the areas of the portal he's opened up. And at that point, then, just, wailing energy down onto his opponents. So ultimately, I mean, that's my take on it. They are pretty powerful Zanpakutos. I mean, ultimately, they're not the strongest Zanpakutos there are. Like, for instance, Aizen, for example. His Zanpakuto, honestly, completely counteracts any of these abilities. It really does. But yeah, Aizen's beats them. Hell, Ichibei's is more than capable of taking these on. Ichimonji. Although, Raiga could theoretically copy the ink, and that would cause a problem. So, I mean, the really powerful Zanpakutos would pose more problems to these. Katen Kyotsu could easily counteract these just because of the sheer variety of them, those attacks. But I digress. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the three Zanpakutos of these mutual characters. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, who wants to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll get to it at some point. Hit the bell if you want notifications. I'm not sure which Zombie I'm going to do next week. We're really running low on them. I will say, though, I think, actually, I take it back. I do think I know who I'm going to do next week. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, who wants to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. I'll do a review of it at some point. I'm scratching the puppy's butt right now. Scratch your butt. I'll be back in a little while with both the, well, not a little while. I'll be back later with the Captain Class Shinigami video and with the What If. It's the last day of the week of What If. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.